The Las Vegas Strip glittered like a mirage, its neon veins throbbing with promises of ecstasy and ruin. Casinos hummed with the clatter of chips, laughter spilled from rooftop bars, and strangers chased fleeting highs under a desert sky. For Sarah Langley, a 35-year-old librarian from a quiet Indiana suburb, Vegas was a foreign realm, a dazzling chaos she'd never have chosen if not for her lifelong friend, Kristen Vale. Kristen's bachelorette party was the siren call, a weekend of revelry before she wed her high school sweetheart, Ryan. Sarah had hesitated, her heart tethered to her husband, Nathan, and their cozy world of book-lined evenings and morning walks. But as her plane descended into McCarran International, a strange unease stirred, a whisper of something she couldn't name. Sarah was unassuming, wavy auburn hair pulled into a loose ponytail, hazel eyes that held a quiet strength, a wardrobe of blouses and loafers that spoke of comfort over flash. She shelved books at the local library, organized community readings, and baked bread for neighbors. Vegas, with its brazen pulse, felt like a betrayal of her essence. Yet Kristen's voice had been relentless, teasing over a late-night call. "Sarah, come on. One crazy weekend won't break you." Nathan had been her anchor, zipping her suitcase with a smile. "Go enjoy," he'd said, brushing a kiss across her cheek. "You've earned it." Now, in the gilded lobby of Caesar's Palace, Sarah gripped her tote bag, the chime of slot machines jarring her senses. Kristen burst in like a firework, her silver dress shimmering, dark curls bouncing with every step. "Sarah, you're here," she squealed, enveloping her in a hug that carried the scent of jasmine and gin. Behind her, the bridesmaids Nora, a corporate analyst with a steely edge, and Ellie, a yoga instructor whose cheer bordered on manic, grinned, clutching cocktails. Sarah mustered a smile, her nerves prickling. She was out of her depth, but for Kristen, she'd try. Their friendship stretched back to college, a tapestry of late-night study sessions and shared secrets. Kristen was the spark, bold, magnetic, always chasing the next thrill, while Sarah was the steady hand, grounding her through heartbreaks and wild plans. They drifted after graduation, Kristen chasing a PR career in Indianapolis, Sarah settling with Nathan in their small town. The bachelorette party was a reunion, a chance to bridge the gap. But as Kristen led them to the bar, her laughter sharp and commanding, Sarah felt a flicker of distance, a crack she hadn't noticed before. The first night was a torrent of excess. Kristen steered them from a chandelier-lit lounge to a pulsing club at the Venetian, her laughter slicing through the din. They sipped Cosmos under a sky of LED stars, Kristen's energy infectious. "To freedom," she toasted, clinking glasses with Sarah, who drank cautiously, the alcohol sharp on her tongue. Kristen's eyes glinted as she urged another round, her hand brushing Sarah's glass. "Live a little, babe," she teased, and Sarah, wanting to please, obliged. By midnight, they were at a rooftop club, the bass vibrating through Sarah's chest. Kristen pulled her onto the dance floor, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah let go, her body swaying, her worries dissolving. She didn't see Kristen's hand hover over her drink, didn't catch the faint powder slipping into the liquid. The world blurred, lights pulsing, voices fading, Kristen's arm around her. A man appeared, broad-shouldered, his smile slick. His voice was low, his hand grazing her arm. Sarah giggled, unsteady, the room tilting. Then, darkness swallowed her whole. Sarah woke to a skull-splitting headache, her mouth parched as dust. She was in her hotel room, the curtains drawn, a blade of sunlight cutting through the dark. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Texts from Nathan. "Hope you're having a blast. Love you always." She reached for it, then froze. On her left hand, where her wedding ring, a plain platinum band etched with their vows, should have been, was a stranger's ring. A tacky brass circle with a gaudy ruby, cheap and wrong. Her pulse raced, a cold dread pooling in her gut. Where was her ring? How had this one gotten there? She tore through her belongings. Tote, luggage, bathroom counter. Panic clawing at her chest. Her wedding ring, a symbol of 8 years with Nathan, was gone. vanished like a ghost. She dialed Kristen, her hands trembling. "Chris, something's not right," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'm wearing this weird ring, and my wedding band's missing. What happened last night?" Kristen's laugh was bright, almost forced, cutting through the line. "Oh, Sarah, you were a riot. We hit a few more spots, got silly at a trinket shop. That ring's probably some dumb souvenir. Chill, it'll show up." Sarah's stomach nodded, her unease deepening. "I don't remember a trinket shop. I don't remember anything after the club." "You were smashed," Kristen said, her tone breezy, dismissive. "Too many Cosmos, babe. Brunch in an hour, okay? Don't stress." Sarah hung up, her mind a haze of doubt and fear. She stared at the ruby ring, its shine mocking her, a garish impostor on her finger. Fragments of the night flickered, strobes flashing, Kristen's arm around her, a man's low laugh, but they vanished like smoke, leaving only questions. She showered, the water doing little to clear her dread, her reflection in the mirror a stranger's face. At brunch, Kristen was radiant, spinning tales of their escapades to Nora and Ellie, who giggled over mimosas. Sarah sat silent, her fork idle, the ruby ring burning against her skin, a riddle she couldn't solve. She tried to shake it off, to join the laughter, but her thoughts spiraled. Kristen's stories felt rehearsed, her glances too quick, too sharp. Nora, ever observant, raised an eyebrow. "You okay, Sarah? You're quiet." Sarah forced a smile, murmuring about a headache, but Ellie's chatter drowned her out, and Kristen steered the conversation elsewhere. By the time Sarah boarded her flight home, the ring still on, she told herself it was a mix-up, a prank gone awry. She'd find her wedding band, laugh it off with Nathan. But as the plane lifted into the sky, her dread sharpened, a blade she couldn't dodge. Nathan Langley was a man of quiet passion, his life a tapestry of small joys and steady rhythms. At 37, he taught history at Jefferson High, his days filled with lectures on the Civil War and grading essays scribbled in haste. He loved Sarah deeply, her gentleness a balm to his restless mind, her smile a lighthouse in his storms. Their marriage wasn't perfect. Savings were tight, and they'd postponed starting a family, dreams deferred by bills and time. But it was rooted in trust, in acts like Sarah's notes tucked into his lunch bag, her handwriting a daily vow. So when she returned from Vegas, her eyes distant, her laugh a hollow echo, Nathan felt a pang of worry, a crack in their foundation. They curled up on the couch that night, a rom-com flickering on their old TV, its laugh track grating against the silence. Nathan's phone pinged, a notification from Kristen's Instagram story, a collage of the bachelorette party, all glitter and grins. He smiled, ready to nudge Sarah about her dance moves, but then he froze. In a shaky clip from the club, Sarah swayed unsteadily, a man's arm around her waist. He was broad-shouldered, his face half hidden in the strobe lights, but his hand rested on her hip, too close, too intimate. The video cut off abruptly, but not before Nathan saw the ring on Sarah's finger. Not her platinum band, but something cheap, glaringly wrong, a ruby glinting like a wound. His stomach churned, a mix of hurt and disbelief flooding his veins. He glanced at Sarah, her eyes fixed on the screen, oblivious. "Kristen posted some Vegas clips," he said, his voice tight, a wire pulled taut. "Wanna check them out?" Sarah's face flickered, fear, maybe guilt, but she nodded, her hands folding in her lap. As the clip played, she gasped, her breath catching, her hands shaking. "I don't remember that," she stammered, her voice cracking like glass. She pulled her left hand from her sleeve, revealing the ruby ring, its tacky shine catching the lamplight. "Nathan, I swear, I don't know how this got here. My ring's gone, and gone." His tone sharpened, pain slicing through his shock. "Who's that guy, Sarah? What the hell happened?" "I don't know," she sobbed, tears spilling over her cheeks. "I woke up with this, and Kristen said it was a prank, but I can't remember anything after the club." Nathan's mind reeled, betrayal gnawing at his core. "A prank?" he snapped, his voice rising, raw with hurt. You're dancing with some stranger, wearing a new ring, and you expect me to buy that it's nothing? Sarah flinched, her hands trembling, her voice breaking. I'd never betray you, Nathan. You know me. But did he? Doubt crept in, cold and insidious, a shadow over their years together. The next few days were a minefield of silence, their home a battlefield of unspoken fears. Sarah moved like a ghost, her eyes haunted, her fingers twisting the ruby ring as if it held answers. Nathan wrestled with his anger, his love for her warring with the image burned in his mind. Her body pressed against another man's, her laughter lost to a night she couldn't recall. He scoured Kristen's social media, hoping for clues, but found only curated posts about her wedding, each photo a taunt. Then, on a sleepless night, he did something he'd never done. He opened Sarah's phone, a line he'd sworn not to cross. A text from Kristen, sent the day after Vegas. Don't sweat the ring. Silly night. Keep it on the DL, K? His blood ran cold, the words a knife in his gut. Keep what on the down low? He scrolled further, finding nothing else suspicious. But the message festered, a poison he couldn't purge. At breakfast, he faced Sarah, his voice low, taut with restrained fury. What's Kristen hiding, Sarah? What really went down in Vegas? Sarah's eyes welled up, her hands clutching the ring like a lifeline. I don't know, she whispered, her voice trembling. I've asked her, but she dodges. Nathan, I'm scared. Something's not right. Her fear pierced his anger, a crack in his defenses, but it wasn't enough to quell the storm inside him. I need the truth, he said, grabbing his coat, his jaw tight. And I'm getting it. Nathan's search took him to Kristen's apartment, a trendy loft in Indianapolis, its windows gleaming against the city skyline. She was knee-deep in wedding plans, her dining table buried under floral samples and seating charts. She greeted him with a smile, but it was strained, her eyes flickering with unease. Nathan, what's up? Here to help with place cards. Her laugh was thin, a performance. No games, he said, his voice like gravel, hard and unyielding. What happened in Vegas? That video? Who was that guy with Sarah? Kristen's smile wavered, but she rallied, tossing her dark curls with practiced ease. Oh, that? Just some club rando. Sarah was drunk, having a laugh. No big deal. Then why's she wearing a strange ring? He pressed, stepping closer, his presence filling the room. Why can't she remember anything? Kristen sighed, her tone patronizing, a teacher scolding a slow student. She overdid the drinks, Nathan. The ring's probably from some goofy shop we hit. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Nathan's eyes narrowed, his patience fraying like a worn thread. If it's nothing, why tell her to keep it quiet? He held up his phone, the text glowing on the screen, a silent accusation. Kristen paled, her lips parting, her voice sharp with defensiveness. You went through her phone? That's low, Nathan. Answer me, he growled, his voice a low rumble, his patience gone. She crossed her arms, her posture rigid, her voice clipped. Fine. Sarah got sloppy. Okay? Flirting, dancing with some guy, acting like an idiot. I told her to keep it quiet because I knew you'd lose it. She loves you, Nathan. Let it go. Her story didn't hold, the cracks in her facade glaring. Nathan left, his doubts festering, Kristen's unease a splinter in his mind. Her words felt rehearsed, her glance too quick, too guarded. Back home, Sarah was waiting, curled on the couch, her eyes red from crying. What did she say? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, fragile as spun glass. She claims you were drunk. Flirting? Nathan said, sitting beside her, his voice heavy with frustration. But it doesn't add up, Sarah. Something's off. Sarah nodded, her hands trembling, her fingers twisting the ruby ring. I don't feel like I'd do that, she said, her voice cracking. Nathan, I'm losing my mind. I need to know what happened. Her desperation broke through his anger, and he pulled her close, his arms a shield against the chaos. We'll find out. he promised, his voice softer now, though the path ahead was shrouded in shadow. Sarah couldn't sit still, her unease a living thing, clawing at her insides. She took matters into her own hands, driven by a need to reclaim her truth. She called the Venetian, her voice steady despite her racing heart, asking about security footage from that night. The manager was polite but firm. Privacy policies, no access without a court order. She scoured her phone, her fingers shaking as she scrolled through photos. One caught her eye. A blurry shot from the club, a man's silhouette in the background, Kristen's arm around her, the ruby ring glinting like a warning. Her stomach churned, the image a puzzle piece that didn't fit. She visited her doctor, Dr. Anjali Patel, a steady woman with a calm presence that grounded Sarah's spiraling thoughts. Sitting in the sterile office, Sarah spilled her fears. The memory loss, the ring, the dread that clung to her like a second skin. "I'm not myself," she said, her voice trembling, her hands clasped tight. "I need to understand why." Dr. Patel listened, her brow furrowed, and ordered blood tests, suspecting more than a hangover. "We'll get answers," she said, her voice a lifeline. When the results came back 3 days later, Sarah's world fractured, the truth a jagged blade tearing through her reality. Traces of flunitrazepam, Rohypnol, a date rape drug, lingered in her system, slipped into her drink that night in Vegas, its effects explaining the black hole where her memories should have been. "You were drugged," Dr. Patel said, her voice grave, her eyes steady with compassion. "This accounts for the amnesia, the disorientation. You're fortunate it wasn't worse, Sarah. But we need to report this." Sarah's tears fell, hot and silent, her hands shaking as she gripped the chair. She hadn't been reckless, hadn't been unfaithful. She'd been betrayed, her trust shattered by someone she loved. She called Nathan from the parking lot, her voice trembling as she shared the news, the words spilling out between sobs. He was at her side in an hour, his face pale, his anger no longer aimed at her but at an unseen enemy, a shadow they couldn't name. "Who had access to your drink?" he asked, his jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides. "Kristen," Sarah said, the name a wound, raw and bleeding. "She kept pushing drinks on me, insisting I keep up." Nathan's eyes darkened, a storm brewing behind them. "We're confronting her," he said, his voice low, resolute. "Today." They drove to Kristen's loft, the silence between them heavy with resolve, the hum of the car a stark contrast to the chaos in their hearts. Indianapolis unfolded around them, its skyline sharp against the dusk. But Sarah saw only Kristen's face, her friend's smile now a mask she couldn't trust. Nathan's hand rested on hers, a silent vow to face this together, their bond strained but unbroken. Kristen was sorting wedding favors when they arrived, her loft a whirlwind of tulle and ribbon, the air thick with the scent of lilies. Her face fell at their arrival, her smile faltering, her eyes darting between them. "Again?" she said, her tone sharp, her arms crossing like a shield. "What now?" "Sarah was drugged," Nathan said, his voice like iron, unyielding. "In Vegas. You know anything about that?" Kristen's eyes widened, a flash of panic crossing her face. But she laughed, a brittle, hollow sound that echoed in the room. "Drugged? That's insane. She just drank too much, Nathan. You're both paranoid." "Then why can't I remember?" Sarah demanded, stepping forward, her voice raw, her hands clenched at her sides. "Why did you tell me to keep quiet? What did you do, Kristen?" Kristen's composure cracked, her hands trembling, her voice rising in defense. "You're delusional," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "I was looking out for you, Sarah. You were a mess all over some guy, acting like a fool. I didn't want Nathan to lose it over nothing." "Stop lying," Nathan said, his voice low and dangerous, a growl that filled the space. "You slipped something in her drink." "Why?" Kristen's lips parted, her breath hitching, but no words came. Then, like a house of cards collapsing under its own weight, she sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face, her hands covering her mouth. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she sobbed, her voice breaking, her body shaking. I wanted you to cut loose, Sarah. You're always so perfect, so together, with your perfect husband, your perfect life. I thought a little mess would make you human, make you fallible like me. Human? Sarah's voice shook with rage, her eyes burning with betrayal. You drugged me, Kristen. You let some stranger near me. Why? Kristen looked away, her voice a whisper, barely audible over her sobs. I was jealous, okay? You have Nathan, a home, a life that's solid. I'm marrying Ryan, but it's falling apart. He's distant. I know he's cheating. I wanted you to stumble, just once, so I wouldn't feel so alone in my chaos. Sarah staggered back, the betrayal cutting deeper than any drug, a wound that bled through her heart. You're my best friend, she said, her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. How could you do this to me? Nathan's fists clenched, his body rigid with fury, but he stayed silent, letting Sarah lead, his presence a steady anchor beside her. Who was the guy? She asked, her tone cold, her eyes locked on Kristen's tear-streaked face. What did you do? Kristen wiped her tears, her voice hollow, drained of fight. His name's Caleb, a guy I know from work. I paid him to flirt with you, to make it look bad, to make you look less than perfect. The ring was his idea, a cheap prop to rattle you, to make you question yourself. I didn't know the drug would hit you that hard, Sarah. I swear. Sarah's hand flew to the ruby ring, her fingers trembling as she yanked it off, the brass cold against her skin. She hurled it at Kristen's feet, the clatter echoing in the silent room. You nearly destroyed my marriage, she said, her voice steady now, forged in the fire of her pain. You're not my friend. You're nothing. They left Kristen sobbing, her loft a mausoleum of her own making, the truth a bitter victory that tasted of ash. Back home, Sarah and Nathan sat in their living room, the silence between them heavy with the weight of what they'd uncovered. The ruby ring lay discarded on the coffee table, a relic of a night Sarah would never fully recall, a scar she'd carry forever. I'm so sorry, Sarah said, her voice small, her hands clasped tight in her lap. I trusted her. Nathan took her hand, his touch warm, his anger softened by the love that had always defined them. It's not your fault, he said, his voice gentle, his eyes meeting hers. She used you, Sarah, but we're stronger than that. The weeks that followed were a slow rebuilding, a reclaiming of what Kristen had tried to shatter. Sarah found her wedding band in a hidden pocket of her tote, tucked inside a crumpled receipt, a small miracle amidst the wreckage. She slipped it back on, the platinum cool against her skin, a vow renewed. Kristen's wedding went ahead, a lavish affair in a vineyard outside Indianapolis, but Sarah wasn't there. She'd severed the tie, a wound that would scar but heal, a choice that set her free. The ruby ring sat in a drawer, locked away with the pain of that night, a reminder of her resilience, her refusal to break. Nathan let go of his doubts, his love for Sarah deepened by their shared ordeal, a bond forged anew in the crucible of betrayal. They talked more, their conversations stretching into the night, their laughter a defiance of the shadows. They took walks again, hand in hand, the Indiana air crisp with autumn's promise, their steps a quiet vow to move forward together. Sarah returned to her library, her days filled with the rustle of pages and the chatter of children, but she carried a new strength, a clarity born of pain. She volunteered less, said no more often, guarding her peace with a fierceness she hadn't known she possessed. Nathan noticed, his pride in her quiet but fierce, his notes now tucked into her books, a mirror to her own. Kristen faded from their lives, her name unspoken, her betrayal a ghost they refused to let linger. Sarah heard whispers. Ryan's infidelity surfaced, the marriage crumbling before the ink dried, but she felt no satisfaction, only a distant sorrow for the friend she'd lost long before that night. Vegas had tested them, stripping away illusions to reveal what mattered. Their marriage, flawed but enduring, a lighthouse against the storm. And in the glittering chaos of the Strip, Las Vegas spun on, its neon heart beating with secrets buried in the desert sand, waiting for the next soul to lose and find. themselves in its relentless embrace.